Hi guys, so this morning's job, it's a Saturday morning and we're still focusing on making the boat as livable as possible for Jess. She's buggered her hip and it's making her pretty immobile around the boat. She's hobbling around like an old woman.
More than usual.
So this morning I'm going to be putting the dishwasher in the kitchen and plumbing that all up. That's not a big job, so it probably only take me, I don't know, an hour or so all up. And then once we've got that done, we're going to get stuck into the big job for the weekend for us is getting stuck into the watertight door that goes between the freezer room and the engine bay. So I'll show you the watertight door in a sec. So what we're going to be doing is welding a stainless 316 stainless lip that goes all the way around the edge of the door, and the door seals up against that stainless lip. So we're going to be welding that to a mild steel bulkhead. So we're going to be doing stainless to mild welding, and there'll probably be a little bit of plasma cutting and grinding and all the other bits that go with it. So that's pretty exciting. We're hoping to get that in. Yeah, probably today. I think we'll have a pretty good shot at having that done.
Yeah, you'll have most of the day to do it, eh?
Yeah, I have most of the day, and I think we'll be able to get that done. And then in between those two things, the dishwasher and the door, there's lots of little odds and sods jobs that we've got to get done. So
finish the bathroom door?
Yeah, got to put the door handles on the bathroom door, so it's all painted and it's mounted, and so it's, yeah, I need to stick the handles on and so on. So I had to change the way that I'm doing the handles a little bit, but it's relatively easy and straightforward, and I actually think it's going to be better. It's going to be more watertight, less possibility for water to get in under the bolts and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, we'll get that done. We've also got to put sand all over the rear deck and carry on with sand drying. And
that's the blasting. Oh, that's the other thing you need to do is
blast the rear doors.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we need.
Because you need to get the first lot of rust kill on that today.
Yeah. So we need to get sand. We need to get sand dried so that we can blast the rear doors. I've finished one rear door blasting and I'm 50% the way through the other. So I just need a little bit more sand to finish that off. So once that's done, we can let the doors sit and go rusty, and then we'll put the rust kill on, and then start the etch process on those. Our goal is to have the lounge behind us. Our goal is to have that closed up within 2 weeks.
We've just actually had a friend say he's going to come and help us week on, week off.
Yeah.
Once he's finished a project that he's working on.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
And he's really good at. He's really
good.
Yeah, he's really knowledgeable at what he does, and yeah, just really looking forward to it. He's an awesome dude.
And we spent a little bit of time with him just recently, and so we're a bit blown away actually. So we're like, okay, now we've got to get it closed up because we need another room to.
So we've got to get some accommodation, and we've got to actually build a lounge. We've been living on here just by ourselves basically. So we've got our little bedroom, and then a bedroom that's converted into the world's smallest lounge, and a kitchen, and that's it. And yeah, now we need to have accommodation and so on. So yeah,
which is a great problem to have. Yeah. Really great. So.
Yeah. So
thanks, Tim.
Thanks, Tim. Yep.
Can't wait for you to be here.
So with that in mind, hopefully a bit more progress will start happening on the boat, because it won't be just me working on the boat. So yeah, we'll be able to start moving forward a bit, which will be pretty neat. You'll start to see a bit more bigger engineering jobs and stuff sort of be taking place and so forth. Yeah. So let's get into the weekend, eh?
Yeah. Good.
Cool. So it's in. I've levelled it up. It doesn't quite look level on that bench, but it is actually sitting level. You can see on the ground one side's up a bit higher than the other. I've got the water drain hooked up, I've got the power hooked up, and you can just see that grey pipe there. That's the water supply. It's got some weird thing on the end. I'll show you. So it's obviously screws into a normal tap fitting, but this is, so let me spin it around and actually show you. 240 volt flow restriction type thing. I think it's basically if something goes wrong with the machine, this shuts the water off, but so this is our solution when it's either too windy or too wet. At the moment it's sort of getting some decent gusts, so We're not putting any sand on the roof because we don't want to go over the neighbour's boat, so we clear the back end of the boat out, throw sand all over the back, it dries it out, and then we put it through rolling thunder and we're good to blast with it. So, door handles mounted. So you obviously need to paint the door and all that, but basically these holes here, which are the holes for the bolts for the handle on the opposite side, they're going to get filled up. I'll probably maybe put a dowel in there or something, and or filler. I don't know, maybe just filler, I'm not sure. But yeah, essentially that'll get completely sealed off. I'll have to paint around this handle, but the handles will become basically part of the door. So same deal on that side. So those two black dots will get filled up and painted, but that's going to completely eliminate water going through and like rotting out the door from the inside. So this was the original plan for the corners, was to use 4-inch diameter heavy walled 316 stainless, but this is way too small a diameter, so it was never going to work. I found some slightly bigger 6-inch diameter stuff down in the scrap heap in the bottom just to see if that was going to be the right size, and that was too small. And then I remembered, when I drew the door in the wall, I used the bottom of this as my radius, so that was the size pipe that I need. Cue big ass piece of stainless. So I'll just come a bit closer. So this is a piece of roughly 8-inch diameter thick wall stainless, so it's about 6mm thick. So the plan is as it was originally, just with a bigger piece of pipe. So this was the bit that I was mucking around with and slicing and bending, and I got it like, you know, a reasonable curve going on in it, but it was rough and it was always going to be crap, so I'm glad that that didn't work. This is going to be awesome. So we're going to slice it into quarters, and then each one will become a 90-degree bend that sits in the corner of each, the top two and the bottom two corners. So I'm going to slice this now and then start cutting up the sides and everything for the stainless, and I'll weld it together and you'll see how that frame is going to look. So I went into town this morning and brought a new grinder. So I brought the same grinder that I had before, just a second version, mainly because I was really happy with it. I thought it was a great grinder, and that now that I've got two means I can throw the other one in for a warranty claim for whatever reason why it died. But this morning's job, so we've got these quarters that we plasmaed yesterday, and I'll see if I can show you the edge. So that's the sort of finish that the plasma leaves. So it's okay. Like, it's relatively straight. Let's see if we can, where are we? There you go. So it's pretty straight, but it's, you know, rough. So I'm just going to clean these all up with the flapper wheel. Got a few of them to do, and then I've cut the side, one of the sides, and then I've got to cut the bottom or the top, whatever one, and then yeah, we can start basically putting these in and welding the whole lot together. So we'll clean these up, and then we'll cut the couple more of these and start putting it in place. So I'm in the engine bay. This is the cutout that we made. So engine bay and then freezer room on this side. This is where we're welding in the door. So my plan is, so these are the 90s that we created. They fit in there like so. So what my plan is weld all of the 90s, just tack weld them in, so that I can get a really accurate measurement from, say, the one on the bottom to the one at the top. And then I can cut the straights, like this piece behind me, I'll cut those, you know, millimetre perfect that way, and then tack all of those in. Once the whole frame is sitting in there tacked up, then I'll go through and weld it and do piece at a time so I don't warp it too much. Yeah, so I think that's how I'll press on with it. The way that we are doing it, so the door's going to be on this side, because according to the fishermen, if any room is going to flood, it's going to be your engine room, because that's where a lot of the through holes and things like that are. There's not that many in the rest of the boat. So if the engine bay floods, I want it to jam the door shut so the rest of the boat doesn't flood. So the door's going to open on the engine, like it'll open into the engine bay. and I'll also put a little window in the door as well, so that when we're climbing down about to have a look, just got sand rain down on me, yeah, when we climb down about to have a look in the engine bay, if it's on fire or if there's any sort of chaos, we can actually see it through the window before we go into that room. And so that the window is a really safe, like it's not going to be a weak point in that door, because the doors are completely aluminium, so that there's not going to be a weak point in the door, I'm actually going to use 10mm tempered glass, and I'm going to double glaze it and put a piece on either side of the glass, and I'm going to bond it in with a huge, about 100mm all the way around it. So normally they say use 30mm, I'm going to use 100mm, I'll go all the way around it, I'll do it on both sides, and it'll only be a small window as well. So that should be plenty to, because if it's, let's say this room's completely full of water, if it's pressing that glass into the door, then that's going to be a good way of having that pressure, I suppose, spread out across that door. And then also if that does break, we've got another one backing it up. Weld time. So I've got all my corners marked. So what I've done, so on the freezer room side of the wall, don't know if you can see it in the video, but there's some ribs and vertical, I don't know what we call them actually, vertical pieces of 75mm by 6mm steel welded in on the back of this bulkhead. What I'm going to do is stick it out 75mm on one side, and then whatever's left is coming into the engine bay side. So the corners are going to sit something, where are we? The corners are going to sort of sit like that, so they overlap the wall a little bit. So what I've done is I've gone through and marked, so every corner I've put a number on it and marked the corners, but the piece of steel specific to that corner, and then I've marked it so it needs to be exactly where I've got it. So I'm just going to go through now and tack weld these up. The difficulty with trying to use a square is this wall is not straight, because it didn't really matter if it was perfectly straight or not. So it's got buckles in it all the way along. Whenever they built the boat, they've welded it in and just not worried too much about it, because it's going to get covered up with insulation on the other side and machinery in this side, so it doesn't matter at all for the original build. So using a square is a bit difficult because this wall is quite wobbly, so I have to do a bit of a guesstimate and a bit of a close enough on a lot of it. Sometimes when I've got my welder at maximum extension, so I've got the cord pretty much right to the end of what it can do, it starts getting a bit sticky, the end here. I think it's probably the liner or something, but again, don't know enough about it to know what's the problem. But yes, it's one of those things. I would like to actually get a longer lead, but a new liner at the same time. Alright, so slight change of plan. Okay, so what I'm doing, I've welded them all in. I was going to align it so that the freezer room is the pretty side and the engine bay is just the functional side. I'm actually going to change it round because I need to increase the stick out a little bit on this side, which is fine, I've allowed for that. These are all too long and they have to be trimmed down once I've all finished the door anyway, so just adjusting where I'm going to measure, weld in the 100mm or the 4-inch wide piece of flat bar. Alright, I'm just going to go and trim up the stainless and then we'll fit it up. Alright, so I've got my hinges tacked in. The bolts fit through this hinge for some reason and not through this one. I think this one might have like a plastic sleeve or something in there to isolate the aluminium. I don't know, I'm going to drill it out later and figure out. I might drill it out a bit bigger and put a new one in, because I'm kind of keen to put something plastic or something in there to stop that from, just to isolate that door pretty much. There we have it. She's all welded in, double continuous both sides, including all of the little ribs that join on. They're all welded. Just got to trim up the corners. So if I come down here, you see the corners obviously just overhanging a little bit. Just need to clean those up. Pretty much all four are doing exactly the same thing. But yeah, they take 2 minutes. So once that's done, we'll give the whole thing a flapper up and just give it a clean. But other than that, yeah, it's a bit hard to see in this light. It's the end of the day. I'm only working under one work light, so lighting's a bit rubbish. Alright, so the frame's all welded in. The door works pretty well on there. It's all good. I just need to now rip all the paint off the door. So I'll take it down and we'll start. First off, we've got to paint strip the door. So we'll get in and we'll put paint stripper all over it and start letting it bubble off and ruin the paint that way, hopefully. And then we should be able. I'm either thinking we'll either be able to scrape it off with the paint stripper, or if that doesn't work, at least it will soften the paint up and ruin it enough that I can just rip it off with the sandblaster. Failing that, we have actually had a couple of goes where we can get under the 2-pack. So the 2-pack just does not hold to the aluminium for some reason on this particular door. And I just don't think they prepped it well enough or something like that, I'm not sure. So the 2-pack isn't holding on the door, and I think we might be able to get the water blaster actually down between the paint and the aluminium, and peel it off that way. So a couple of options. We'll go down the stairs and we'll have a go with the door now. So we covered all of this area yesterday with paint stripper, and it seems to be working quite well. You can sort of see it's stripped off quite good in a lot of places. So where I put it on thick, it worked really well. Where I had a thin coating, it hasn't really done it enough. So I'm just going to go through. I'll give this a bit of a scrape, clean up what I can, and then I'll just give it another dousing, put it over like all these areas, for example, where it hasn't really etched into it enough. So see if we can rip as much as possible off with the rust killer. I'm using a different stuff. So that was the old stuff, which is just the cheap and nasty stuff from a local hardware store. And I'm using this stuff here this time round. I have no idea if it's better or worse, don't know, it's just whatever. It was whatever was on the shelf. So let's give it a go. So we got to try and get the water jet in behind the 2-pack. So you can kind of see that there's a big bit about to peel off. Ryan's squirting it in. There you go. You can start to see it sort of exploding away. So the 2-pack doesn't hold on to the alloy below it, but it holds onto itself really well. So if you can get the jet of water up underneath it, you can just peel the whole lot off. So that's the plan at the moment.
Listen here boys, 'cause this is the right time, remember this world, 'cause these are the days.
There she is. Finally managed to blast the door. So we've ground, there was a couple of tags, one there and one here somewhere. So we've ground those off and then blasted the door smooth. Yeah, so I'll flip it over and show you what the back's like. So it came out pretty clean, pretty happy with that. So there's obviously still little bits of paint and stuff under here, which is pretty difficult to get out. And then there's some bits obviously down in here and that, but that's not going to matter because that's all going to be filled up with rubber, so you won't see any of that when I'm finished. So yeah, overall pretty pleased with how it came out. It's interesting looking at some of the welds. Some of them are a bit sus, so I might give them a bit of a tidy up, but yeah, no, pretty pleased. So we'll get the rubber in and get this on.